All right, Nick, let's talk about the Chicago Bears. The Bears, a ton of change this offseason already when it comes to a head coaching staff. This staff really is primed to change this team dramatically, and the amount of cap space they have is big, but it's about to get even bigger. The Bears have set themselves up to do something massive here. I think it's going to be really exciting. But before we get into that, I'm Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, Bears have a lot of cap space, but they're about to get even more with some really smart moves here. Let's jump into it and we can talk more about it on the other side. This, of course, from over on NBC Sports. It says the Bears are releasing veteran defensive end DeMarcus Walker, per Mike Garofalo of NFL Media Reports. He started all 17 games for the Bears last season, but he only totaled 47 tackles with 3.5 sacks and 16 quarterback hits. Walker, 30, signed a 3-year, $21 million contract with the Bears in 2023 when he was last a free agent. He had $15.65 million in guaranteed money. I think it's really smart, but it goes on. There's a tweet we have to kind of show the bigger picture of this and another move they made, how it impacts the Bears going forward. So let's jump into that. This is a tweet from over on Spotrac. Really great tool website for looking at all of the salary cap dollars that are out there. But it says the pending releases of tight end Gerald Everett and defensive end DeMarcus Walker free up another $10.75 million of cap for the Bears, which now projects them towards $75 million of cap in that top 51 players when they reach March. This is an absolutely massive number for the Bears. Curious what your thoughts are on this one, Nick, but before we get to you, Bears fans, in the comment section below, $75 million, a lot of cap. Usually we say, what's one move you want to make? But the Bears, go ahead. Tell us two moves that you think the Bears could make. Maybe one for each side of the ball. Let us know what moves you want this team to make with this ludicrous amount of cap space they have now in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what do you think about this latest for the Bears?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. And let's give credit where credit is due to Ryan Poles. He's willing to cut losses on a few players. And look, nothing against Walker or Everett, but the reality is there's hits against the salary cap aren't commiserate with their production on the field. So basically, from like a valuation perspective, it makes sense to cut them. You're taking on a minimal dead cap hit. Dead cap, for those who aren't familiar, is dollars on your salary cap associated to players who aren't on your team, players you cut or traded. So this is a very, very just solid business savvy, good roster management kind of move here from Ryan Poles. So credit there. But I also think when you look at the larger picture, this is Ryan Poles willing to cut losses on a few guys he brought into the fold when Eberflus was still the head coach. Remember, Ryan Poles, and I believe this was happening, really believed Eberflus could turn this team around. He just felt that Eberflus needed just a deep and talented roster with a bunch of veteran guys, experienced guys, both sides of the football. And Ryan Poles, to his credit, fully supported Eberflus' strategy. It obviously didn't work out. Now it's time to change that strategy and give Ben Johnson everything he needs. And I think that is the key point here. Ryan Poles getting rid of Walker, getting rid of Everett. They're not part of Ben Johnson's plans. Obviously, if they were, they would have kept them on the roster. And they're opening up this buku amount of cap space, like you mentioned, to make deals to allow Ben Johnson to get the team he wants. And I think that is so critically important for the Chicago Bears going forward. Remember, Ryan Poles, at least reportedly, is still on the last year of his deal. He's essentially kind of a lame duck general manager. He could be kind of stubborn here and say, listen, I'm not risking it. I want to make my roster look as good as possible, at least on paper. That way, if the wheels fall off with Ben Johnson for whatever reason, don't think they will, but if they do, Ryan Poles, could get a deal somewhere else, can get a job somewhere else. No, Ryan Poles is 100% supporting Johnson. He is setting up Coach Johnson to have all the tools he needs, all the pieces he needs to get this team headed in the right direction. And when you have this kind of alignment between the general manager and the head coach, good things can happen. And we've seen this before. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl champion Eagles. Nick Sirianni, Roseman, great manager coach alignment. How about the Kansas City Chiefs, Brett Veach, Andy Reid, great alignment there. And of course, Bill Belichick, when he was filling both roles, head coach and GM, great alignment there. In fact, even from the Detroit Lions, where they obviously pulled Johnson from, great alignment there. Head coach, GM, Holmes and Dan Campbell. Right now, the Bears have that between Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson. Give some credit to Ryan Poles. This should allow Johnson to help build the team. He already built his staff. Now he can build his roster and put this Bears team in a really strong position.
Yeah, Nick, and I think this is just a smart dollars and cents approach, and it shows the Bears they're making the right moves. Because when you look at Walker, we talk about what he did, 27 solo tackles, but for an edge rusher, you want them to kind of convert those solo tackles into backfield tackles, tackles for loss, sacks on the quarterback. So off 27 tackles, he gets 4 sacks. You look at some of the other guys on this team, off of 10 less tackles, we look at Montez Sweat, 17 tackles for him. He converted that into 6 sacks. So already 2 more sacks on 10 less tackles for a guy like Montez Sweat. Even look at Austin Booker, a guy who's really green, I would say. It was his first year, a rookie off of 15 tackles. He got 2 sacks in his own right. So I think, DeMarcus Walker, for the money he's getting paid, for the deals they made for this team, he just isn't producing at the same level of even some of the lower level guys. So I think this was the smart move. It was the right move for the Bears. They're really making the necessary changes to this team. Is like you said, Ryan Poles, last year of his deal, is kind of in a position where he's got to go all in. He's got to make this team be really successful right now. And anyone who is dead weight, anyone who is not making dollars and cents on this team, he's got to move on from them and bring in the right people. So I think we're going to see a big change on this team. I see all the dollars we're about to spend in free agency, the $75 million. I think this team's going to look dramatically different this season. So if I'm a Bears fan, I now more than ever am going to be really excited. Maybe the moves don't work. It's possible. They have made bad moves in the past, but they've also made some really, really good ones as well. And with $75 million, there's a lot of moves to be made. So I'm ready for this offseason. I want to see what the Bears do because I think Ryan Poles is set up to make his, coup d'etat, his last stand of the GM position, be a really exciting.